Hi everyone, wherever you are in Canada, in the United States, but also our students and followers from around the world, from Europe, Asia, Middle East and North Africa, and Latin America. Thanks for joining second InnoVigilance monthly webinar for 20 and 21. Great pleasure for me to introduce our speaker today, Mr. Jairus Hiatt, is going to talk to us about the pharmacovigilance and drug safety job market, how to get a job in this growing sector. Thank you for accepting and being part of in our event this today and this.
You bet. Thank you, Omar. Appreciate the introduction. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Me too. We are just honored today to have you with us in this excited event. So today's subject, in which we should all be deeply interested to consider a career in pharmacovigilance and drug safety, especially in North America, which is the leading market in this field. Our guest speaker is a leading pharmaceutical biotechnology for leading pharmaceutical and biotechnology executive recruiter specialized in placing top talent in the drug safety and pharmacovigilance space. So let me just share with you the exciting bio of Jairus. So after joining the pharmaceutical biotech and biotechnology industry in 2012, Jairus quickly became successful as one of the most decorated recruiters in the industry. In an office of tenured professionals in the recruiting space, he received a great training from them and developed his skill sets. He also greatly relied on his passion for excellence to help learn a new industry and become someone that many look to for career advice and help in reaching their goals. Jairus found that there truly was a need for recruiting professionals that specialize in the space. So after placing a few others in the pharma industry in other disciplines, he decided to dedicate himself to the practice of drug safety and PV and pharmacovigilance, and hasn't looked back. After building a leading and successful practice at NaviTrust over a period of 5 years, he left to pursue his dream of starting his own firm, PEAK BioSource. So PEAK BioSource now is in the 4th year of business, continues to find a great success in the drug safety and pharmacovigilance space in the US. So ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming again and again Jairus Hiatt.
Thanks, Omar. I appreciate that. It's good to be here, and I'm so excited to be part of this space, the drug safety pharmacovigilance space. What a great time to be in this market. There's so many exciting things going on. Pharma, biotechnology, when other industries were shutting down, things were rough for a lot of folks. Our industry just kept going forward, onward and onward, and actually increased. And so there's been a lot of excitement around the pharma biotech industry, and particularly as it relates to safety. And so it's great.
Yeah, definitely. So in our webinar today, we will get the chance to ask some questions to Jairus regarding, for example, what qualifications and certifications are needed to join the pharmaceutical industry in the PV and drug safety space. Also questions, could you share the best, how to share the best practices around the CV or resume building and interview tips for drug safety and PV roles. We have, as we noticed that in our attendance, we have professionals that are already in the PV space. So we will talk about some tips and advices how to take a step to build and to move forward in the career in drug safety and pharmacovigilance, mainly in the Canada and the United States, but this field is global, and the tips mainly are the same around the world.
Yes. So, how would you like to begin, Dr. Omar? Do you have some questions you'd like to ask, or would you like me to dive into some things? You tell me.
So I have prepared some questions for you, and then at the end we will jump and ask some questions from the audience. You can send your questions on the comments on YouTube channel, on Facebook, and LinkedIn, of course. So I have the first question is, what is the best practice to get a job in pharmacovigilance, drug safety in pharmaceutical industry?
That's a great question. I think understanding your role as a professional in drug safety PV, some folks in the industry, they call it patient safety. And I really like that. It helps us get into the mindset that of this space, that we're helping others, that it points us in the right direction of ensuring the health and safety of those patients, and that's of the utmost importance. And so I think having that sort of mindset and in the space and understanding the role and what you'll be doing gives you an edge, a driver over those who really don't, who look at it more as just a job. If you have passion about it and it's something that you can really buy into, it's going to really help when you're in your career and when you're looking for a job. If you aren't sure whether this is the right career path for you, that's okay. Lateral movement is accepted, often even encouraged as a professional in the biotech pharma industry, because it makes you more versatile. It makes you to where you can understand other departments and you can work cross-functionally in various companies and be flexible and open-minded with others. And so I will say this as a disclaimer: everyone is different with an approach to get into the industry, to find a job in drug safety PV. From what I have experienced and seen, the answers vary from person to person. And having said that, I chat with folks. Generally, the work that I do is with those that are quite experienced in the space already. And so, having said that, I've heard a lot of their stories about how they get into the space, how many of them didn't plan on it from the beginning when they were getting their education, but how they were able to stumble into it. And it's really interesting. So I will say that as a disclaimer, that your answer may vary depending on your education, your training, your network, your geography, as to how you're able to get in. But along with that, understand where you would fit best into the space. Go with full awareness, manage your own expectations so that you don't get disappointed when it comes to, okay, I'm going to go get a job in drug safety, and all of a sudden you have 10 applications in and you don't get one right away. It does take some time. It takes some effort. It takes some persistence in order to get it. That's probably one of the hardest careers to be able to just jump into. I think you need to, it's more complicated than 15, 20 years ago. There's multiple areas to consider. You've got things from safety operations, you've got PV science, you've got safety physician work for those that have medical degrees. You have where medical judgment is required. You've got PV systems work that needs to be done. And so pharmacovigilance drug safety is so much more complex than it was when it first started years and years ago. There are even those that are more specialized than that, project managers and PV compliance. And so it's interesting. And so I would say, get to know the basics, understand where you fit in or where you would fit in best with this, read and study, get to know the trends and improve your knowledge if you already have some. And then the next thing I would say to do is connect with others that are in the space that you aspire to be in. Find those that will help you. Find a mentor and use groups. Like LinkedIn has several groups that are dedicated to drug safety, pharmacovigilance. Be parts of those groups, and don't just be a member, participate. That will help you as you increase in your knowledge, and then experience. Breaking into the space is difficult. Once you do have the experience, it gets much easier. And so those are just a couple of tips I would say on that note.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's what I did. I remember before when I came here in Canada, I had some experience in drug safety and pharmacovigilance in Europe. But when I came here, people told me that searching for a job is a full job. So yeah, the exciting thing is to connect with people from drug safety, as you said. Yeah, and the knowledge, increase the knowledge and update the knowledge with the regulation being evolving every year. That's why in InnoVigilance we provide a training about the regulation, the PV operations, trainings on databases, and other things. We will talk at the end about our the training we are providing. So thank you very much. I have another question
Sure.
for you. So what qualifications and certifications are needed?
Yeah, great question as well. Specific academic degrees, depending on the space and the company requirements, sometimes there's even legal regulatory responsibilities that a company has, and so they will require certain levels of degrees. So there may be positions that require an MD or a DO, a PharmD, an RN. These are all typical common degrees that are in the space. healthcare professional degrees, life sciences degrees. Those are all, I would say, the certain types of academic degrees that exist. If we're talking more of an operational associate type role that would be involved in case processing, triage, different things like that, lots of times a simple bachelor's degree. I say simple, that's what I have. I have a bachelor's of science, but you don't need to have overly extensive training for an operational role. Most of the time you can get into that space as a bachelor's of science, bachelor's of arts, with additional training in pharmaceutical biotechnology industry, and specifically with clinical trials and pharmacovigilance, drug safety. So I think you have to put yourself into the shoes, and you'll hear me say this probably again, of the hiring manager. How will you be? How does your degree fit into those typical roles? And have you attended additional training specifically about pharmacovigilance, clinical trials, things like that?
Yeah, thank you, and it's a great tips and advices, and I couldn't agree anymore. So yeah, this is very important, and as you said before, we need the medical judgment, the knowledge of the regulation, of the medical terminology also, and also the use of databases, some MS Office, and the other stuff. So the following question is: what companies and pharmaceutical industry are looking for in candidates?
Yeah,
Of course, in drug safety and pharmacovigilance.
Sure. No, that's a really good question as well. It's somewhat tough to answer because I hate to say it. I hate saying it depends, but it truly is based on different variables. Qualifications are important. Sometimes they're a showstopper. If you are trying to apply for a position as a medical director and you don't have a medical degree, you're not going to be considered for the role in 95% of the cases, probably. So if you're applying for a specialized position, that can greatly affect what you're able to look for and what companies are looking for in candidates. And so I'd say, generally speaking, though, apart from those very specific qualifications that you need to have as far as degrees and education goes, generally what I would say companies are looking for as it relates to pharmacovigilance drug safety is it's your soft skills, your personality, the match that you have with the employers, the team, the culture fit, the attention to detail, critical thinking skills. These are all things that I see that most pharmacovigilance drug safety positions and job descriptions that they're looking for. They want folks who are really interested in the company, that have passion, that want to head their career into the same direction that they themselves as a company are headed. And so they'll really try and determine that when they're looking at candidates. And so you have to really make sure that you're matched up in that way. Confidence is important too. I think I'm sorry, I'm a little off the cusp thinking about this question, but I think confidence is really important. Hiring managers don't want to have to hold someone's hand coming into a position. They want to have someone who can take responsibility and run with it. Most are okay doing some training, doing some mentoring, stepping in when needed, but they don't want to be burdened by your inability to solve problems. They want you to come in and help them, not make their job harder. You got to remember, as someone, what they're looking for, and the reason they're looking for this job, this person, is to help make their jobs easier. And so I would say, on that note, don't be needy. I'm thinking about a few other things. Attention to detail is really important, and that's shown right off of the bat with your resume. Do you have spelling errors? Do you have grammatical errors in your resume? If you do, you better fix them. Those get spotted right away, and your resume will get thrown out. And so those are things, and we'll talk more about that. But I would say that having the communication skills are very important. Being able to speak fluent English is really important. If you speak another language, that's fantastic. Like you, Dr. Omar, with French. So I think being able to write good emails, being able to write documents, you're going to be involved in those types of things in pharmacovigilance and drug safety. And so it's very important that you have that both written as well as oral communication skills. These days, so many of us are working remotely, right? And so it's important to be able to communicate well, and not to have to be there in person, to be able to communicate by phone, to be able to communicate by email, by the different methods that we are so blessed to have in the technology that we have today. And so, yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Oh, wow. Thank you. So I will, just after this webinar, I will review my resume twice. So, yeah, definitely. And in my previous experience, I saw in the job descriptions that for drug safety and pharmacovigilance, that 70% are the same qualifications and requirements. Healthcare professionals are life sciences, bachelor, doctor, science, bachelor science in life sciences, communication skills, time organization, also for as in drug safety, we are working on timelines. We have timelines to report the adverse event to health authorities. Also the communication with the other department, the QA department, the clinical trial units or clinical safety units, the other department, medical information, with healthcare professionals in hospitals, in medical practitioners, and also the patients, communicate with patients and with health authorities, of course, Health Canada, FDA, Food and Drug Administration, the American FDA, and the other European Medicine Agency. And we are seeing nowadays with the vaccination, and we are seeing the increasing communications between countries and between health authorities around the world. So thank you, Jairus, for this valuable tips and advices. My next questions is, could you share best practices around CV building and interview tips for drug safety and PV roles?
Sure. Yeah, I spend a lot of time in this particular space when it comes to my job as an executive recruiter. And so, yeah, happy to give some tips. I mean, understand that we could talk for probably hours and hours about this, but here's at least a couple of things that I would say that hopefully provide some value to our listeners and those that are in the process of building their CV, their resume, I guess first off, I would just say that understand that the resume, it doesn't get you the job. The resume, it only gets you in the front door. It's important. It's very important, but it's what gets you the interview. The interview is what gets you the job. And so understand the difference there. On that note, when it comes to putting together a resume, I think it's also important to understand the role of an HR professional, a talent acquisition professional that you will likely, or that will likely see your resume before it gets to the eyes of the hiring manager. HR talent acquisition professionals generally, they will see dozens of resumes for every position that they have on their desk. And usually they're working on anywhere from 20 to 50 different roles, sometimes more, sometimes maybe less. If they have a very robust talent acquisition team, they may have less. But generally speaking, those that I've worked with over the years, they have a lot of positions on their desk. And so they'll only spend 15, 20 seconds on your resume when it comes across their desk, and they'll skim through it. They will have a few thoughts to make sure that you match up with those that are their top potential candidates for the role. And they'll maybe set aside, they'll go from 100 resumes to 20, 25 resumes. And so if your resume is not in place to catch their eye, if it's not unique enough, if it doesn't stand out in a good way, it gets thrown to the side. And whether you call it unfair or not, it's what happens in the industry. And so I think it's important to realize that they're going to make that short list, and they won't spend very much time on your resume at first. They'll spend time to go through it quickly, 15, 20 seconds. They'll make a pile, and then they'll come back to those CVs, those resumes that they thought were the best potential matches. And so you've got to get it through HR, through talent acquisition first with that mindset. And so on that note, bring the best of your resume to the top. Be very specific about your responsibilities and focus on differentiators. Some may question, okay, well, what's a differentiator? I would say a differentiator is those are accomplishments that you did that someone else with the same or similar title can't say. A false differentiator would be a resume that's filled with a lot of words like hardworking, great communicator, responsible, thorough, detail-oriented. You guys know what I'm talking about. And so many times I think the first versions or two of our CVs have those words in them, and it's okay to have a few of those words. However, really what we're looking for in differentiators are putting substance to those words. You need to show how you're hardworking. You need to show how you are detail oriented. And the way to do that is by showing those accomplishments that you've held in various positions. And so those are things that I would say are really important when it comes to building a resume. One of the things that I see all too often as a recruiter in the space is that there's too many bullet points, way too many bullet points. And sometimes we'll have a job description, and hiring managers, when I work with them on finding a candidate for a role, they say, please don't send me someone who has just spent time copying over the job description of their last job and put it in their resume. They hate that. And you may think that it shows what you did in your last role, but it really just shows what you were supposed to do in your last role. And it doesn't really go through and highlight any accomplishments, anything that you did well. And so don't be the person who just copies over the job description from their last role and paste it onto their resume. Be more specific, be better than that. Spend time going through. It's okay to bring out the old job description and make some notes. Okay, how good was I at this? Oh, wow, I was actually really, really detailed, and I didn't have a single project that came in late. Things like that. Whenever you can put numbers on your resume, those are things that stick out. And so if we were to look through a number of resumes, I think as you look through, you would find that the numbers are really things that stick out. And so if you were able to say that you finished a project X number of months ahead of time, or every position is different from one position to another, but find ways to really make it specific so that someone with the same exact title or similar position that you've held isn't going to be able to say the same thing. That's really how you can uniquely tailor your resume to yourself and stand out from the crowd. The other thing I would say too is adjust your resume depending on what you're applying for. Have multiple versions of your CV. If you're applying it, say you've had some experience in risk management, and you've got some experience also in safety operations, and you really like both of them, you could do a job in either. Well, some companies you may be able to do both, but a lot of companies, they're going to have those broken out into safety science and another one into safety operations. And so you have to have some different versions to highlight those skill sets in your resume, and so that the person who sees your resume for safety science in that position doesn't look at it and go, well, this is just an operations person. They're not going to have the specifics about aggregate reporting and things that I need. And then the person who you interview a job or you apply for in an operations role is going to look at it and go, well, this person's more of a PV scientist. So make sure that you don't shoot yourself in the foot by having different versions of your resume and know where you sent them to various employers. And so, again, we could talk a lot more about resumes, but let's just leave it there for now. I think let's touch a little bit on interviews. I think that would hopefully be helpful for our listeners too. If you have gotten to the point where you've gotten through that front door, you've got an interview. I'd like to give a few tips on that note as well. I would say do your homework, really do your research. Research. Prepare questions. Those are things that really will help you stand out in the interview. So you stood out with your resume. Now we want you to stand out in the interview. You want to get that job. And in order to do that, you've got to stand out in a good way, prepare questions, thoughtful things that will help you to understand how you're going to fit in and how you're going to take things away from the hiring manager. Lots of times when they're hiring, they're overworked, they're having to do 2-3 different jobs, and you are a huge blessing to them if you can take a lot of things off their plate. And so help them understand that you're there to do that. Look the part, present yourself well. I noticed that we're both wearing ties. If you're interviewing, I think I recommend it. I wouldn't say that every company I've been to different companies to visit, and some are very laid back and casual. Some are much more formal. Always, as a rule of thumb, as you're interviewing, it's a lot easier to dress down than it is to dress up.
Yeah.
You're going to have a hard time if you go in and you're maybe business casual and you just have a golf polo shirt on and everyone there is wearing button-up shirts, and I don't know. It's a lot easier to dress down than dress up, and so present yourself well, look the part. When it comes to the conversations that you have, I would avoid answering yes or no to questions as much as possible. It doesn't give you the opportunity to sell yourself, to shine, which is what you're trying to do during the interview. Avoid over answering, but be descriptive in your answers. Be ready to sell yourself, but don't be arrogant. So another don't, I would say, is don't talk bad about your current employer. Don't talk bad about your current boss. You may not like the guy, you may not like the gal, whoever it is. Don't talk bad about them. It reflects poorly on you. At the end of the day, if you're saying bad things about your current employer or past employers, or, oh, I had to get out of there, if somebody asks you about why did you move from this company to that company, be careful in those types of responses, especially if it was a situation where you hated your job. It's okay that you hated your job. It's okay that you didn't really get along with your boss, but be careful in how you respond to that, because it's going to reflect on you. And when they're interviewing you, they're thinking, okay, what's he going to be saying about me if I hire him for this role?
Definitely,
So,
yeah.
I think another thought here is, if you do end up wanting the position, if at the end of it, be assertive. If you want the job, don't leave them guessing of how interested you are in it. I have that happen all too often as well, where someone's well qualified, interviews for a position, and then they end up walking away, and the hiring manager comes back to me and says, well, yeah, he or she was pretty good, but I couldn't tell if they were really even interested in the role. Don't leave them guessing that. Be assertive. Even if you don't want the position, don't burn bridges. It's a small world out there, and a lot of times you'll bump into the same people again. And so I'd say also send a thank you note. In most cases, an email, something that's going to be another way to show your interest in the opportunity, to show your assertiveness, is sending a thank you note. And so I'll stop there. I'm sorry, I went a little long on it.
Yeah, but it's very interesting. So we can hear and hear and hear. So thank you very much, Jairus. We are blessed to have you today in our webinar. So yeah, I can also, as you said, as mentioned, the homework, research about the company, information about the company, about their their projects, their therapeutic area, all of these. It's very, very important. And that's what we are providing also with our certification and drug safety and pharmacovigilance training. uh, all these tips, not the tips for interviews and as much as you can share with us, but the knowledge, the regulation, the terminology, the PV operation, case processing, the what is the signal detection, the risk management system, the pharmacovigilance system, audits and inspections, to help fresh graduates and other professionals which they are not in the PV space and drug safety to join this field and this space, which is growing more and more. So for our attendees that are already in drug safety and pharmacovigilance space, what advice do you have for them for taking the next step in their career?
I'll try and keep this answer shorter, even though I think there's a lot that could be said about this as well. But I do fully recognize that there are those who are already in the space that are perhaps wondering that where do I go from here? How do I take that next step in my career? And I would say understand that the direction you want to go, that's important, and knowing where you are and where you want to be. Ultimately, if you look out and you say, okay, where do I want to be in 5-10 years? Where do I want to end up in my career? Sometimes that's a healthy exercise to take a moment to reflect on and understand that if we have the opportunity to grow and to make it so that we don't have to settle in our career, it's much more enjoyable, it's much more exciting. And so I would say understand that you should be happy in your career. If you're not, take a moment and think about why is it that I'm having a hard time and struggling. It's common to change jobs these days. You don't need to be a job hopper. I'm not endorsing that by any means. But it is common in today's age to have a position and change jobs within 4, 5, 6 years. That's okay. If it's 2-3 years and you're changing jobs every 1, 2, 3 years, or heaven forbid, shorter than that, it's not going to reflect well on your resume. But the fact that today's age, we don't have to spend 20 years in a job that we're not happy with, and that you don't like working for a person that you don't get along with, or on a team that's not making you happy. You can change jobs. And so on that note, your network is really important. Take the time to build that. If you don't have a LinkedIn profile, make sure you have one. I would say most of the attendees here, they probably have one. That I think that's where it was probably advertised the most, was through social media. But is it just your name? Is it just titles? Take the chance to update that and make it filled with buzzwords, keywords that really are able to show what you've done in your different positions that you've held, and to build up your name and your reputation in the industry. Take advantage of your online presence, because I can guarantee that a hiring manager is going to be looking at your LinkedIn profile. They will look not only at your resume, but they will look at your online presence as well. And so your network is important. The other thing I would say is continue to take advantage of opportunities for training, get additional training, go to conferences. I was surprised. I've been to a couple of World Drug Safety Congresses and other events that are in the space. And sometimes I was surprised that there weren't more attendees for as many as there are in the space. I'm not saying they were poorly attended. I want to say the few that I went to, maybe there was a couple hundred people. But I think that generally speaking, if you're in the space, you should always be trying to get better at it. You should always be trying to learn, because the space is ever changing. Regulations are always changing. And so the other thing I would say is work with a recruiter. Doesn't have to be me. Someone who specializes in the space, like myself, is someone who can really help you. A lot of times they'll have relationships with hiring managers. And like myself, I spend a lot of time talking on the phone with hiring managers, and if those that they look for are those that are at the top 10-20% of folks in the space, and a lot of times they're the folks who are gainfully employed right now, find a recruiter who can reach out to you as opportunities come up. Don't wait until you're let go from a position to start looking. Always have a few fillers out there so that you can have your eyes on the market while you're still working, and someone who has your best interest at heart can keep you apprised of opportunities as they come up. Another thing is don't blast out your resume to several potential employers. Keep track where you've applied. It's all too often that happens, where you're in their system and they've seen your name 6 or 7 times, and then you kind of get blackballed. It happens quite a bit. So hopefully that helps a little bit for those that are already in the space that may be looking for some career advice. So.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you. Thank you. We are blessed to have you with us today again and again. I'm feeling happy to know you. And I remember the first time we had a call. We speak French and English, both languages. So yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for these valuable advices. As you said, the trainings, attending events here in North America and in Europe. There's a lot more and more events in drug safety and pharmacovigilance. And now also with these webinars, with the remote events, it's very important. And just to, I urge the audience to follow InnoVigilance, to follow InnoVigilance Facebook page, LinkedIn page, and we are sharing also a lot of updates regarding the regulation, regarding the many topics in drug safety and pharmacovigilance. My last question, because I will we will pick some questions from the comments from the audience. The last question, so how do you see the drug safety and pharmacovigilance market in the current decade, 2020, 2030?
Yeah, that's I see it as a fantastic place to be. I'm thrilled that I picked it. gosh, it's been close to 10 years ago now that I picked working in this space. And it's changed a lot from when I first started working in it. It was in demand, but I think it has grown even more. It is something that is important, and companies realize it, regulators realize it, and so it's become so much more diverse. It's become something that is every company has to account for drug safety, pharmacovigilance if they're working in drug development or have marketed drugs. It's something that goes from the early phases of clinical trials and even before to post-marketing. And so it's a great place to be. I see a lot of numbers out there. I think you even posted a few, Omar, about this, where the current decade, the global PV market was valuated. I saw one site that said $4.2 billion, another one that said 6.33 billion. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's somewhere in that range, and it's more than when I first started, and it's continuing to grow. And the expectation for the by 2030 or 20 by the end of this 10-year period is to be probably 3 times what it is now by most places that do those projections. And so I think one site I saw and report I saw said $18.7 billion from 4.2 to 18.7 by 2030. And so North America dominates the market for PV, and it's expected to continue for at least the next 3-4 years. From my understanding, APAC will continue to experience significant growth as well, probably even faster than where North America is at. There's a lot of jobs that are being outsourced in different areas of the world, and that have because folks want drugs in all countries. And so the world is getting smaller, it feels like. In the US, I think 1 in 3 drugs may have safety issues. And so there's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, definitely. And as you mentioned, also the leading market is North America, Canada, and the US. I can add also, we're talking generally about drugs, but there's also the regulation about the devices, the medical devices is evolving, and the companies are looking for specialists in the device or medical device safety and biosimilars, and of course the oncology, all the healthcare products. Yeah. So yeah, thank you. We can, as you said, talk more and more, and yeah, so many hours about drug safety and pharmacovigilance. Thank you, Jairus. Yeah, you're welcome. So let's jump and choose some questions from the audience. We have Amaiza Munoz. Is it possible to get a job in PV, in pharmacovigilance or drug safety in the US and Canada if I am from Mexico? What would be the qualifications needed? Thank you.
A great question. So I would say it is certainly possible. It does depend on the company. A lot of times, companies that are launching products in various parts of the world will have positions in those areas. I think there's a lot of work to be done in the Latin America market, and Mexico would certainly be a place where I've seen folks, and I'm connected with several on LinkedIn that are in the space, that work for companies that are in the US and Canada. It may be a little bit tougher to land that job. I don't know. I haven't placed those individuals myself, but if your English is good, if you have the knowledge and you're well qualified for the role, you have the educational background, you've done trainings, you work with those in the space, it might be a little tougher to break into initially, but I would say it would be a lot easier once you've got a few years of experience in the field to continue to get jobs in the field. So hopefully that helps a little bit, Amiza.
Perfect. Victorious. Oh, so how do you get the experience? No one is will to give you a chance. This is, yeah, we
That's
see
the
often
catch.
this
The
question.
catch 22, right? You've got a position where it's an entry level role, and it's yet they're asking for 2 to 3 years of experience. I think in this, talking to someone like Dr. Omar is a great place to start.
Thank you.
If you want to get the experience, sometimes you can volunteer for positions depending on the level of work. So if you have a medical degree, and I don't know, Victorious, what your educational background is, but PharmDs or other recent grads from various educational backgrounds, consider an internship. Bigger companies a lot of times will offer internships. You don't get paid great, but you do get the experience, and it allows you to break into the industry. It is a tough thing. I fully realize that, and unfortunately I have to tell people sometimes, hey, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be your best resource as a recruiter if you don't have any experience in the space. But I do see people get in all the time. I'm not always the one who helps them, quite frankly. I wish that I was, but I'm not. But I would say that there is opportunity out there. Start with connecting with people that are already in the space that can help you and mentor you along. Take some courses, go to some trainings. Those are things that really will help you so that you can add those pieces to your resume to set yourself apart a little bit. So
yeah, thank you. So yeah, this is what we provide in our certification. About we have 25 terrific lectures, as I mentioned, regarding the pharmacovigilance basics and terminology, the regulation, the US regulation, the Canadian regulation, the European regulation, the Japanese regulation, Middle East and North Africa, and the Latin America regulation. So along with the Brexit, with the MHRA also regulation, since the Brexit occurred in fall 2020. So yeah, the trainings also is very important to be to get the knowledge out of what is the ICSRs. I mean the individual case safety reports, how to manage, how to handle, how to process the cases, how to write the aggregate reports, the PSURs, the papers, the risk management plans, and the basics of in pharmacovigilance, and that's what we are providing to help those fresh graduates to join the pharmaceutical industry. And we have success stories with some of our students.
That's fantastic.
Thank you. So we have the other question from Daraksha Fatima. Hi, could you please explain how to get a job in pharmacovigilance in Canada and what are the educational requirements? Because I'm from India.
Okay. And maybe this is one that you would respond better than me, Dr. Omar. Would you like to take it?
Yeah, thank you. So the job market and there's many similarities between Canada and the US. Is the same hiring process, the same qualifications, and as you mentioned before, medical doctors, healthcare professionals, medical degrees, pharmacists, nurses or registered nurses, and also PhD or master science in a degree in life sciences can apply for those positions in Canada.
Yeah,
And pharmaceutical
and I would
company.
say just make sure you look at the job description as well, is what I would add, and know what the minimum qualifications are to apply for that role. Don't apply for a role that requires a PharmD if you're perhaps an RN or something like that, or an MD. That make sure you're qualified for the role before you apply.
Thank you. So one of our trainees, the Pinak Joshi, hi Pinak. So much of PV is now pharmacovigilance is now done by the CROs. The CROs are the clinical research organizations providing services for biotechs and big pharmaceutical companies. As we are candidates who have an interest in pharmacovigilance and wish to further ourselves in it, how do we distinguish ourselves to pharma companies rather than the CROs?
Yeah, that's a good question, Pinak. Thanks for asking that. I think that there is a lot of work that's being done by CROs. Now, I would say it depends on the type of work, though, that's being done. Every company is a little bit different on the way that they approach the department of pharmacovigilance drug safety. And so if you're asking as a way to get a job, maybe help me understand so that I don't so that I answer his question correctly, Omar, here. So is he asking to distinguish himself as a candidate for a pharma company? Is that what he's asking about?
Yeah,
okay,
of course.
Versus a CRO, applying for a CRO and a job there.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
For the pharmaceutical company than CROs.
Got it. On that note, then I would say it's important. You're going to have to look at the job description to really get a feel of what it is that they're looking for and find out as much about the company that you can. If you can get connected to someone inside the company, or at minimum a recruiter who knows the company well, a lot of times they can tell you, okay, they have 8 people in their department, for example, and they have a head of safety, they have a couple of drug safety physicians, and they have a couple of scientists, and then they have a couple of managers or operations folks who help manage vendors. A lot of times they'll call it vendor management, and it's the vendor management is done by the pharma companies to these CROs that are responsible for their drug safety operations work for their not necessarily their submissions, but for a lot of their their documents, and then they go through and review those. And so I think you have to tailor it specifically towards that, and making sure that you line up with the qualifications for a role within a pharma company versus a CRO. But a lot of times they're really, really similar. And there are many pharma companies who do all their drug safety PV work in-house, or a lot of it as well. So
yeah, and thank you, Pinak. Pinak is an amazing medical doctor that I knew, and he was involved in our training. He's based in Massachusetts, and it's a person. He's a person that I can refer. I can refer eyes closed. So yeah, and
that's great.
yeah, thank you. So thank you, Pinak. The second question from Victorious: what do hiring managers want to see in a resume to select you for a position?
They want to see that you are qualified for what they're looking for. They're going to want to see, if you put yourself in their shoes, that you are able to come in, and I talked about it a little bit earlier, to take things off of their plate. And so if you have really good qualifications, accomplishments that you've been able to do in your last positions, make sure you bring those things right up front, and that you use the job description that they've got for you, that you've looked at and that you're applying for, to ensure that your resume lines up with what they're looking for. If you're applying for a position and you look at it and you go, well, it's maybe, I don't know if I'm a great fit, then chances are you're probably not. You need to make sure that you're at least, I'm throwing out a random percentage, but generally I would say 75% match for the job, that you can do 75% of what's on that job description, and that it's well cited on your resume.
Thank you. So the other question from Evo Lori: what additional training is needed, and where can it be gotten?
So again, I could turn this one over to you, but I would say there are multiple places where you can learn, and it depends on what you're applying for. It depends on what position you're trying to get into, as far as what additional training you may need. But I would say certainly get some certifications in drug safety, pharmacovigilance. Those will always benefit you throughout your career. And if you already have gotten some, keep up on it. Get continuing education. Get further advanced classes. They offer those at a lot of the conferences that are in the space these days. And so there will be conferences that are all over Canada, all over the US, and all over Europe, that I see all the time, and sometimes I'm invited to, that you can get some amazing training on. But there's also virtual training, like with the case of Omar's training and program, his certification. You can do that virtually.
Yeah, definitely. The lectures are pre-recorded, and the trainee and the student can learn at his or her own pace. And the amazing thing that the certification is recommended by the American Society of Pharmacovigilance, and we are happy, very happy for that. So you can visit, and please visit our website www.innovigilance.com, and you can find a lot of information. You can get in touch with us on LinkedIn, on Facebook. So yeah, don't hesitate and feel free, please. The next question from Raj, also one of our trainees, our students. Do you foresee AI, and it's a great question, supplanting the role of many pharmacovigilance professionals in the future?
I don't. I don't. I think that it will continue to help us. I think it will bring up what's interesting is it's not been very long that AI has started to be a part of pharmacovigilance drug safety. But I think what has been found in the early stages as AI has been more and more used in the space is that, oh, wow, there's more cases than we realized. There are more safety issues than we originally had thought about certain drugs. And so I think it helps as far as finding out about cases, and there's certainly some awesome benefits to it. I'm not a super AI savvy IT smart person. I think that but from my understanding and those that I've worked with in the space, I don't think it's going to replace those and that human touch and those that need to provide judgment about certain things and that need to write, that need to dictate, that need to file, do maybe some filing, but reporting, different things like that, and being able to work with regulators. AI can certainly help, but I don't see it replacing.
Yes, definitely, and I can't agree anymore. As also as from the previous 5 years, I participate as a speaker, as a chair of round table, as president of sessions in drug safety and World Drug Safety Congress in the US and in Europe. About the AI and artificial intelligence impact on pharmacovigilance and drug safety. And yeah, I'm 100% agree with you. And I bring just a simple example. Before we wrote the reports and letters and files with handwriting. And we replace this with Word, MS Office, with Words, and we still need someone to write and to use. This is artificial intelligence is not. It won't be replaced, but it will help. Yeah. So it's something that will help to manage the ever increasing data, drug safety data coming from different sources. So yeah, this is my opinion. Thank you. So thank you. Also third from our students. They are here. They are asking questions. Thank you, Katayon from Toronto, from Canada. How do recruiters feel about candidates with many years of experience in other fields of drug development, who have PV training but are entering the field at entry level?
That's a good question. I don't I don't deal as much personally at entry level in the PV field, and so I hesitate to. It's very well accepted that folks will go across laterals and go from regulatory to drug safety to clinical development, and depending on the background that you have and transferring to PV, I think it's well accepted. I think because of the amount of work that needs to be done in the space and the growth that we have in pharmacovigilance drug safety, if you have experience already at a pharma biotech company, if you have experience with clinical trials, you've actually got a leg up on someone who is coming straight from school and has no experience in pharma biotech at coming in at entry level.
Great, thanks. Thank you very much. V. Smith is asking, thank you, Jairus, and you're welcome, V. Smith. We are here to answer your questions. Can you please share what the expected salary range for entry-level positions would be? Drug safety specialist in the US and associate medical director, drug safety, also in the US. Tricky questions.
Yeah, great question. You don't want to be, you don't want to shoot too low, right? You don't want to shoot too high. You don't want to shoot too low. It's good to understand kind of where ranges are. And I always try and provide insight to candidates that I work with when we're looking at positions. I always want to understand where they're currently at and where they're looking to go so that I can help them. And so, this one is a little bit tough though, because it really, it's another one of those ones where I have to say it depends. It depends on the geography. It depends on whether we're talking a small biotech or a large pharmaceutical company or a consulting firm in the space or a CRO. There's a lot of variables here, but having said that, I'll give you an example. I wish I knew where you were located, V, and I could get more specific. Feel free to reach out to me directly. But as far as a drug safety specialist, there can be, the titles are tough too. If we're talking like an entry level position, like a drug safety associate, they can range anywhere from, in the US, $55,000, $60,000 a year to $110,000 a year. So for I'm just seeing here a CRO Southeast.
A CRO Southeast US.
Okay. So there, I would say most of the time what I see for that level is somewhere around the, if it's entry level, given some companies will call a drug safety specialist someone who has progressed 3 levels within their career. But if we're talking an entry level person, it's probably somewhere around that $70,000 a year or something in the Southeast of the US. Give or take, maybe if it's someone who has a few years of experience at that level, could be 90, 95, above 100 even. So the range is a little wide, and sorry for not being able to be more specific on that, but I don't want to dig myself into a hole either here, V.
Thank you, Jairus. Twimi and Maddie, is it obligatory to have experience in pharmacovigilance or quality control to get a job in Canadian? And I mean, the Canadian or the US is exactly the same. Industrial companies or pharma industries.
Okay. So There two questions there? I'm sorry.
Yeah, the second, if I have any pharmaceutical experience and I was working as owner of pharmacy, do I have any chance to get a job opportunity in the North, let's say North American industrial companies?
Yes, I do believe so. Now, you're going to know Canada even better than I do,
Yeah.
Omar, but I've worked and placed a few folks in Canada as well, and it does happen. I think, again, a plug for training and getting as much in the space as you can without having a job in it, being able to do some volunteer hours, even being able to do an internship. If you're an owner of a pharmacy, that can be something that I could see that it might be tough to all of a sudden go back to square one. But there are opportunities out there for you. A lot of times you will have to take a step back in order to join, depending on where you were previously.
Perfect. So thank you. We have a lot of comments, a lot of thank you, a lot of questions. Victorious said, Dr. Almer, after finishing your course, do your student get position as an intern? I have a medical background and I have a diploma in pharmacovigilance and clinical research. So I can use also, it depends on your geographic location. But yes, we have already students that joined already CROs and working as freelancers in drug safety and pharmacovigilance, and also working in pharmaceutical companies in the Middle East. Isra, hello, thanks for this opportunity. Could you please clarify the skills needed for a remote position, especially nowadays after COVID pandemic?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's interesting because if you'd asked me this question probably 5-6 years ago, I'd have said, there are remote opportunities out there. There's just not as many of them as I would like to see. Most companies will want you on site. They want you, at least in the beginning, to be there so that you can rub shoulders with the team, so that you can learn the culture of the company and get to know your boss and all the different cross-functional members of the team that you're going to be working with. And before you're able to, and so a lot of companies 4 or 5 years ago and beyond, and they would say they need to be here. Now, with the COVID pandemic going on, what we've seen, those of us that are recruiting in the space, is that there are a lot more opportunities for remote work. You need to know what you're doing. You need to be good at it, and to have the right skill set in order to work remotely. But I think companies are realizing that, hey, we can actually do this. We've got pretty good productivity with our workforce, even remotely, as the pandemic has gone on. And so communication, to answer your question, I think communication is really one of the big things that I think you need to be really good at in order to work remotely, in order for a company or a hiring manager to be comfortable with you working remotely. I think you need to be very detail oriented. Obviously, some of the specific skills that are needed are going to depend on the position itself. But if we're just talking in general, working in pharmacovigilance, drug safety at whatever level, those are things that I would say are really important. Being able to be technology savvy enough to jump on and take care of things at given hours. You need to be flexible, because drug safety is, and you know this, Omar, it's
Yeah.
you don't get to control when the cases come in all the time.
Of course.
It's not a position where I think we have to plan on working 80, 90-hour weeks, but at the same time, I think most companies expect that if you're in this space, that you will take care of business as it comes in. And so, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Omar?
Yeah. To be flexible, to be agile, to be a team player, to be there's many skills, and of course the challenge to work remotely is as you said, nowadays with the pandemic, we learn to work in different way, but the skills are mainly the same. The communication also, it's very important, and we need now more communication skills with the meetings, online meetings, the whole day, and the management, and to how to communicate with the other team members. So it's very important, and we're done. So we succeed, I think.
Yeah, I wish we had more time, but again, I would welcome the opportunity to connect with folks that may have more questions or thoughts or want some additional insights. I would be happy to connect with you. I apologize if we don't connect in advance right away. I do stay pretty busy. At the same time, I love connecting with those in the space and helping and doing what I can to help people progress their careers. It's a passion of mine. And so I'm very excited to be a part of this. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, and we are just pleased and honored to have you, as I mentioned, in this webinar with us, and with your valuable and great advices and tips. Thank you very much. Even me, I learned more and more today. So thank you very much. I would just present our drug safety and pharmacovigilance before close today's webinar. The drug safety and pharmacovigilance certificate, which is an online 100% online training with 25 lectures. So as I mentioned before, the trainee or the student or the learner can learn at her or his own pace, with the regulation, with different packages, drug safety and pharmacovigilance certificates, the drug safety and pharmacovigilance gold certificate, and the platinum level. You will find all the relevant information, all the information and details visiting our website, InnoVigilance.com. So as I said, we have modules about regulation, the worldwide regulation, the drug development process, and the drug approval process in the major countries. I mean, in North America, in Europe, in Japan, the ICH regulation, the worldwide regulation, the PV operations, case processing, trainings, on safety database, Argus database or safety database, and the aggregate reports, writing, the risk management system, the audits and inspections, and the quality and compliance. So please feel free to visit our website and LinkedIn page, InnoVigilance LinkedIn page. And as also mentioned, Jairus, go and connect with us on LinkedIn and follow our social media pages. So thank you very much. Thank you, Jairus, for your time, for your consideration. Thank you very much. We're very happy, and I hope that we will organize another webinar, not the next one, but when you will have time to dig and to answer more questions. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Omar.
And thanks to our audience. Thank you very much for your time and for to be interested in our topic today. And we'll see you the next month for another topic and another speakers, maybe a panel. Thank you very much. Have a good day. I think